The Taliban are sweeping through Afghanistan at an extraordinary pace. Herat, the country's third largest city, has fallen today. Kandahar, the second biggest, is on the brink of defeat.
Afghanistan is on the brink of falling to the Taliban. Bagram Air Base and the main prison have been taken now. Kabul is expected to fall in a matter of hours to the Taliban.
The Taliban have advanced to the gates of the Afghan capital, Kabul.
Story that so many people are watching very closely. The Afghan government has fallen, and right now the Taliban is taking control.
Afghanistan's government has fallen to Islamist militants who make up the Taliban, and the frenzy for Afghan citizens and diplomats trying to escape the country today reached a fever pitch. 7 Afghans died in a frantic scramble at the Kabul airport, 2 of whom apparently fell after hanging onto the wheels of a U.S. cargo plane as it took off. Additional U.S. troops are on their way to help with evacuation. 6,000 will soon be there as the Taliban retake power 20 years after the American invasion that deposed them.
Afghanistan, land of the Afghans. The history of Afghanistan as a state began in 1823 as the Emirate of Afghanistan after the fall of the predecessor, the Afghan Durrani Empire, considered the founding state of modern Afghanistan. Human habitation in Afghanistan dates back to the Middle Paleolithic era, and the country's strategic location along the historic Silk Road connected it to the cultures of other parts of Asia as well as Europe, leaving behind a mosaic of ethno-linguistic and religious groups that has influenced the modern Afghan nation. The land has historically been home to various peoples and has witnessed numerous military campaigns, including those by Alexander the Great, the Maurya Empire, Muslim Arabs, the Mongols, the British, the Soviet Union, and most recently by an American-led coalition. Afghanistan also served as the source from which the Greco-Bactrians and the Mughals, among others, rose to form major empire. The various conquests and periods in both the Indian and Persian cultural spheres made the area a center for Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, and later Islam throughout history. The modern state of Afghanistan began with the Durrani dynasty in the 18th century, the empire at its peak ruling an area from eastern Iran to northern India. Following its decline, and the death of Timur Shah, it was divided into the smaller independent kingdoms of Herat, Kandahar, and Kabul, before being reunited in the 19th century after wars of unification led by Dost Muhammad Khan. During this time, Afghanistan became a buffer state in the Great Game between British India and the Russian Empire. The British in India attempted to subjugate the country but were repelled in the First Anglo-Afghan War. In the Second War, it successfully established a British-protected state over Afghanistan. Following a third war in 1919, the country became free of foreign dominance, and eventually emerged as the independent Kingdom of Afghanistan in June 1926 under Amanullah Khan. This kingdom lasted almost 50 years, until Zahir Shah was overthrown in 1973, following which a republic was established. Afghanistan's history since the late 1970s has been dominated by prolonged warfare, starting with the country becoming a socialist state and provoking the Soviet-Afghan War, followed by 3 consecutive civil wars 1989 to 1992, 1992 to 1996, and 1996 to 2001 that resulted in the large-scale takeover of the country by the Taliban and its totalitarian regime. The Taliban were later overthrown by a United States-led invasion in 2001 which began a 20-year-long war that concluded with the Taliban's summer offensive and the resulting fall of Kabul in August 2021, with the Taliban returning to power and regaining control of the government. The 2021 fall of Kabul, come to be known as the fall of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, was the capture of Afghanistan's capital city of Kabul by the Taliban on the 15th of August 2021, the culmination of a military offensive which began in May 2021. The city's capture prompted an international airlift of fleeing civilians, and took place hours after President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. The city was captured amid a United States military withdrawal from the country in accordance with the US-Taliban peace agreement signed in February 2020 to conclude the 2001-2021 Afghanistan conflict. Prior to the capture, most of Afghanistan's provincial capitals had fallen in succession during a Taliban offensive, with United States intelligence community assessments estimating in July 2021 that Kabul would fall within months or weeks following withdrawal of American forces, leading US President Joe Biden to concede on the 16th of August that this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated. Since then, hardline Islamist group Taliban has committed widespread and serious human rights violations against common citizens in the Afghanistan, like beating, stepping on them to the extent of causing several internal injuries, torture and also assassinations. The Taliban has practically banned girls' education at secondary level and higher, prohibited women's sports, forbidden female workers from their government jobs, induced women-owned businesses to shut down or female staff to stay off work. The Taliban has crushed dissent, fired upon and then banned protests. It has tortured journalists covering peaceful protests and forced media houses into self-censorship or overt restraint. Attacks on human rights defenders have become a norm, and the regime has evicted and displaced civilians from their homesteads. But still world hasn't yet awake, especially the Muslim Ummah. Why Muslim Ummah is silenced on this, why they aren't saying anything for Afghan Muslims. Will ever Muslim Ummah rise against Taliban? This is the time for all of us to speak against Taliban, or else Afghanistan will erased from the face of the earth.